time for Dennis Hensley's Happy and Gay. It's an all good vibes spin-off of the Dennis Anyone podcast. I'm your announcer, AI James Dean. Now here's your host, Dennis Hensley.
Hey there, and welcome to Dennis Hensley's Happy and Gay / Dennis Anyone birthday Bonanza crossover episode. I love doing different announcers for the podcast, and I chose James Dean, even though I think I did him before, because it's my birthday episode, and part of my birthday festivities was a trip to the Getty Museum for the Queer Lens exhibit, all photographs of gay people and gay history and so forth. And there was a room with all these portraits of LGBTQ people, and James Dean was included. And I thought, ooh, Getty, I like that. You're leaning in. Yeah, no murkiness there. He's on the wall, and he looked fabulous. So he's the announcer today. All right, on to the first segment.
And now it's time for So This Happened.
All right, so this happened. Before we get to the birthday bonanza stuff, I want to tell you about the podcast awards. So they were supposed to be last night, September 28th. I am nominated in the Best LGBTQ Show for Dennis Anyone. And they had to cancel the awards because the founder and host of the organization, a man named Todd Cochrane, died suddenly in September, earlier in the month. And so they postponed them or canceled them. I'm not sure what's going to happen with them. But yeah, sending our condolences out to everyone that knew and loved Todd. That's so sad and unfortunate, and we'll keep you posted if they get rescheduled. But one thing that came out of being nominated for the podcast awards is my last Dennis Anyone podcast guest, Rob Loveless, who's the host of A Jaded Gay podcast. I reached out to him, and he did my show last week, and I have a little clip of him coming up later in this show. And so that was one connection that I'm glad that I made that came about because of that. And if the show gets rescheduled or if there's any news about that, I will let you know. Thanks to everyone who nominated and voted for me. It was cool to be a part of the mix. So this is my birthday, and this year for my birthday, I decided to do a new strategy, and I think it's good. So I call it I think it's like my buffet style birthday bonanza. So it's 5 different events all on one flyer. I canvaed the shit out of it, and people could come to whichever one they wanted. And they were all sort of low key, not like fancy, expensive. You need to get dressed up. There's a theme. It's not that. So we'll go day by day, and I'll share everything with you that happened. So the first day was Thursday night, and there was an outdoor screening of the movie Almost Famous at a place called the Desert 5 Spot in Hollywood. Now, this place has been on my radar for a while because a guy that I follow on Instagram named Derek is one of the managers there, and he posts about it, and they have country line dancing and two-stepping, and it looked like a really cool venue. And there's also a pool outside, and they have gay pool parties during the summer, live music. It's like cool, but I hadn't been there, but they were doing an outdoor screening of Almost Famous, the Cameron Crowe movie. And I was like, that sounds fun. So let's start off the birthday weekend on Thursday with an outing to see that movie. And so about 10 or 12 people came, and it was really cool. Like, the atmosphere is really fun. The club itself was sort of separate from the pool, so we weren't like, it was pretty quiet. You were able to focus on the movie. And when we would go into the club for a drink or like to use the bathroom or whatever, it was kind of hopping, like young people dressed up for a night on the town, like single and ready to mingle and looking good and with their friends. And there's country music, but you could hear each other talk, and there was enough light to see. Like, it was a cool scene. It made me happy for the young people that were out there to like boot scoot and maybe knock boots if you're going to stick with the boot stuff. It was fun to see the movie again. I found it very moving. It's a story of Cameron Crowe's, teenage years when he was a very precocious lover of rock and roll music and a good writer. And he ended up sort of writing for mainstream big magazines as a teenager, like Cream and Rolling Stone. And in the story, he gets assigned to do a big cover story on the band Stillwater. It's a fictional band. And he goes on the tour bus with them, and he's on the road with them, and he's like 15 or 16. And it's kind of a really wonderful coming of age story. Kate Hudson plays Penny Lane, who is a groupie, but she doesn't like to be called a groupie. She's a Band-Aid, and she's so winning and kind of heartbreaking in it. And she kind of takes the lead character, I forget his name. I think it's something William. Maybe it's William. William is that or his last name. Anyway, she takes him under her wing, and Billy Crudup is the rock guitarist in the band and kind of the sex symbol of the group. Jason Lee is the lead singer, but he's overshadowed by Billy Crudup, who's got the sex appeal. And Kate Hudson is sort of in love with Billy Crudup, but, you know, he sort of treats her like ultimately kind of like a disposable groupie, and it causes sadness for our hero who loves her. And, you know, when I first started doing journalism, I would have been in my late 20s, early 30s. So not nearly as young as the protagonist in this movie, but I started to get some good assignments pretty early on. So I was meeting and interviewing celebrities in my late 20s, in my 30s, but I did have that feeling of like, how am I in this world? How did I get in this world? And also you're supposed to be documenting them. You're supposed to, and in the movie, William's mentor, Philip Seymour Hoffman, tells him, don't make friends with them. And it just reminded me of my early days as a print journalist, doing magazines and ending up places like at parties with celebrities. I ended up at Carrie Fisher's birthday party one year with Penny Marshall, and that sort of wide-eyed thing, but then kind of realizing that friendships with famous people are unique and their own thing, and they sometimes just get canceled like a TV show, and you don't know that you were canceled, but it was. You find out months later that you're like, oh, I guess I didn't get renewed for a second season. So anyway, it brought up some of those feelings, but it was a wonderful vibe. They had a taco stand there. You could get tacos. And Derek, the manager, I told him it was my birthday, and he hooked us up with some, you know, a bucket of soft drinks. And anyway, it's a cool place, Desert 5 spot. And they said they're going to do another movie for Halloween on the 30th. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm going to keep an eye out for it. And if it's a fun one, I might want to go back there because it was cool. You're cozy. You've got these little sofas out by the pool, and they have little blankets for everybody. It was cool. So that was Thursday night. And I was like, this is great, because there was like 10 people there, and some of them are coming to other things and some of them aren't. But I got to spend time with people and like actually connect with people on my birthday. Whereas if it's a bigger party and you've got all these people and you're trying to organize, and you don't get as much quality time. So I think this buffet style thing is a good thing. I'm into it. And so that was Thursday. Friday, I wanted to go see Mulholland Drive at the New Beverly. It was playing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But when I started to plan this, they were all sold out. And so I was like, oh, well, that's not going to happen. But the New Beverly was showing a matinee on Friday afternoon of Paul Thomas Anderson's movie Magnolia, which I think is from 1995. It's an ensemble story about these different people living in Los Angeles. Some of their stories intersect, some don't. It has to do with, I think, parents and children and regret. And there's a great cast. Julianne Moore, Tom Cruise is amazing. He plays this sort of dating guru who's super misogynistic and, you know, very like modern day podcaster, bro podcaster, kind of a precursor to like your Andrew Tates and stuff like that. But he's so good in it. And it's not just the charismatic parts that he's great at. He's sort of heartbreaking because you could feel like he has all these walls up. And Philip Seymour Hoffman plays the nurse of Tom Cruise's dying father, who is Jason Robards. And Philip Seymour Hoffman he broke my heart. Of all the characters in the movie, he feels like the one who has the fewest walls up, and he's a caretaker, and he's trying to do the right thing, and he has a sweetness to him. And he's surrounded by people who are not bad people, but they've just made decisions and they've put up walls, and they're not really having a life of integrity where they're all sort of good with everybody. And, you know, there's a lot of resentments and stuff still brewing in them. But 5 of us went to that, and we went to lunch beforehand at the Crown of India. It's an Indian restaurant right near the Village where we do the mismatch game, and they had a great lunch special. I love Indian food. And we were all about it. And then we went to the movie, and it was 3 hours long. I had Milk Duds, which is my favorite movie snack. And it was good. It was another and I got to hang out with my neighbors who came, who I don't know super well, but I love getting to know them better. And so it was a smaller group, and that was the Friday thing. And it's fun to have a thing to look forward to every day. And then Saturday, a group of folks went to the Getty Museum in Los Angeles. I mentioned this earlier. So the Getty is up in the hillside by the 405. I remember when it first opened, maybe 20 or 25 years ago. I remember going pretty early on with the group and just being blown away by the majesty of the actual building. It's these big blocks that are like stone blocks, and it feels a little bit ancient. And it's white and kind of majestic. You have to take a little tram up the hill, a little railway. So you park down below, and the exhibit is free, but you have to pay for parking. So we met for coffee beforehand at a place called The Boy and the Bear, which, it's gay coded in case you missed that. But the coffee was delicious. And one of my guests bought me an almond croissant with cream in it. It was so effing good. So we met there and combined to take as few cars up as possible because it was a lot, $25 to park. But Queer Lens was a collection of photographs of and by LGBTQ people throughout history. And I found out later that these are all photographs that are in the Getty collection. So it's not photos that were brought in for this exhibit. It's not a traveling show. This was Getty's collection, and they have quite an extensive collection of LGBTQ photographs, some dating back, to the late 1800s. One of my favorite shots was, I think, from the 50s or the 40s of these two men near a newsstand in Naples, Italy. So the newspapers are all in Italian, and one of them is sitting on the other one's lap and facing them. And you couldn't tell if they were lovers or friends, but there was a sort of homoerotic connection between them. And I loved it. I loved thinking about that time and who they were and what was it like to be them and to have this kind of public display of affection. Although I know from my Italian friends that I used to have when I worked on the cruise ship, we would go walking in port and stuff and they would link arms with me. Like that was very normal. So maybe this kind of affection was totally what people were used to, but it was fun to think about. There were edgy shots in the collection. There was a Robert Mapplethorpe shot of an African-American man in a kind of leisure suit, disco 70s suit, and you only see him from like the shoulders down to maybe the mid-thigh. And it's sort of like one of those disco suits that are totally my thing. I love them so much. And his penis is hanging out through the fly. And so it's very provocative. It's kind of like there, boom, in your face. And I loved that the Getty was willing to kind of put this edgy stuff as part of this exhibit. I thought it was cool. And they wrote about the artistic value of it and what it might have said and what the message might have been and stuff like that. It was all beautifully curated, but there was some edgy stuff, some Mapplethorpes. And then there was a room that was all portraits of LGBTQ people. So the photographers may not have been gay, but all the subjects were. And it was like a baby picture of Anderson Cooper and, Jodie Foster in this fantastic older photo where she's posed by a movie camera and she's younger, but it looks like oh God, it's so artful. And I was saying to one of my friends when we were there that we see so many photos now because of social media that you can kind of get overloaded and forget that there are photographs that are very artful, that are very intentional. And when you see them, you're like, oh yeah, this kind of picture. And that was one thing that was really cool about that. Who else was in the exhibit? Oh, there were people that were in the gay portraits thing that were a little bit edgy, like you weren't sure, like James Dean I mentioned before. There was a picture of Katharine Hepburn. And I don't know what's been confirmed about her, but like, I like that they were like erring on the side of queer. And my straight friends, Christopher and Devin, they're a couple. And I work with Christopher. He shoots these interviews that I do when I do these on camera shows for Europe. They're called Close Up. I've been doing them since 2008. We've done like 130 episodes or something crazy. And it'll be like a half hour on Julia Roberts or a half hour on George Clooney. And I come up with sound bites to say, and then they edit in another talking head, my friend Gray Drake, who we also shoot together, and with red carpet footage and things like that. Anyway, Christopher shoots those interviews, and we become friendly through that. But they have a friend named Zach who works at the Getty. And Zach hadn't started his shift yet, so we were able to talk with him a bit, and I asked him what it was like to be working there during this exhibit. And he just talked about how he's been there for 2 years, and these months since this opened in June for Pride have been the most fun by far. There's been such a good feeling. All of the different, groups that come in, all of the gay people, it's just like really filled him with joy and pride to be working there and be a part of it. And he really noticed a shift in the kind of people that would come. And I was very touched by that. And the thing that was the most moving about it, I'm getting emotional. You get off the tram and there's a big sign that says Queer Lens, and there's, the graphic for it. And then there's stairs that are painted for pride colors, big, right in the middle of the Getty. Like, they're not worried about affecting the aesthetic of the white stone thing. There's these big colored steps, and it says something like love is love or something to that effect. Like they were saying, welcome, let's celebrate queer people, and we're here to do it. And in a time when things are going the other direction, and when there's so much fear, so much oppression, so much hatred, to have a place that was like, yes, exclamation point, yes, it was really moving to be there. And so I'm really glad I got to see it. It was the last weekend there, and we had a group of like 12 of us, just taking in the exhibit, and some folks stayed for lunch up there at the cafeteria, and that was fun. And so that was the Queer Lens. That was the Saturday of the buffet. And I'm trying to think if there's any other cool things about that exhibit that I remember. Just some of my favorite imagery. There was this beautiful painting of these two women in a bathtub together and the way they were regarding each other. And it was really, really something. And so interesting to know that all of these photos were owned by the Gettys. They're part of their collection. So I thought that was wonderful. And unfortunately it's closed, but I'm glad that I got to see it when I did. So then Sunday, I decided to host a little game get together at a place in North Hollywood called Lawless Brewing. And it's a brewery, but they have an outdoor patio. They have all these tables. They have an upstairs. They have a game room. Like, it's a very fun community hub place. And about 5 or 6 of us came. They had a food truck there. I had a pastrami sandwich that was good. And we ended up actually just catching up and talking. We didn't end up playing any games, even though I brought some. And it was a more casual vibe, but it was fun. And people that weren't able to go to the other thing were able to come to that. And that was lovely. And my friend Fred came and gave me a backpack. I said no gifts, but he got me a backpack for going to dance class, because we go to dance class together sometime. And he knew the right size, the right kind of compartments you need for the shoes, the water bottle, the whole thing. And I was like, oh, this is my new dance bag, and I'm into it. I love having a dance bag, right? I'm 61. I have a dance bag. I have a new dance bag. That reminds me, when I first started going back to hip hop class in like 2011, I got to be in a couple of recitals in 2013 and 2014 with my friend Benji Allen and the Groove 3 group. And we did these recitals at the Sweat Spot. And I had to be in my late 40s, like 49. And I was like, will you come to my dance recital? I was so excited about my dance recital. And my friends came and they brought flowers. I'm literally a 14-year-old girl in tights and a pink tutu. And I loved it. It was the best. So that was Sunday. And now today is Monday. And here's what we're doing tonight, and I'll pipe in at the end of this with an update later when I get home. One of my favorite places in LA is called the Will Geer Theatricum Botanicum. It's an outdoor amphitheater, and it started by Will Geer and his family founded it. Will Geer, of course, is Grandpa Walton, and he was blacklisted in the Red Scare and the McCarthy, the 50s Hollywood blacklist time. And I had Will's daughter, Ellen Geer, on the podcast a few months ago. And I love talking to her because I've been a fan and an admirer of her and the place and the story for years. And she was everything I wanted her to be, just this inspiring artist person. And, she said something that in that interview that still sticks with me, which is that music was such a part of the 60s revolution, the hippies and all of that stuff, the folk singers. And I feel like there is a space for something like that in our culture now. something artful that brings people together. Where are the folk songs? Where are the protest songs? I don't know. I feel like this moment needs them, but she pointed that out to me, and I thought that was deep, and I think about it all the time. So we're going there. We're seeing a play called Wine in the Wilderness. I don't know the full story of it. I know it's about an African-American family. One of them is a painter. I think it's a play that's been done a fair amount in different sort of regional theaters, and I'm excited to see it. There's probably 10 or 12 of us going. I'm stopping at Chili's on the way, my favorite place to get food, to get picnic food, and we're going to picnic outside, and then we're going to see that. And I will tell you a little bit about it when I get home. I'll fire it up, and I'll insert my update right here. All right, I just got back from my final birthday event, the play Wine in the Wilderness by Alice Childress at the Will Geer Theatricum Botanicum in Topanga Canyon. It's outside in this beautiful rustic setting, one of my favorite places in LA, and it was a magical night. I had a group of 8 of us total. We got Chili's to go on the way for a picnic, and my roommate Penelope got me a Tres Leches birthday cake from Porto's that was delicious. Tres Leches is one of my favorites. My friend Tom Goss brought a chocolate cake that looked like a dog that was cracking everybody up, and that was good. And and one of my new friends, Carrie Madsen, who was in the Vegas commercial with me, came with her partner, and so that was fun. I've only met her this year, and it was a magical night, and the show is so good. So first of all, I hadn't heard of the playwright Alice Childress. She was the first African-American woman to have a play produced on Broadway, and apparently it was a different play than the one I saw tonight. The play I saw tonight is called Wine in the Wilderness. The play that was on Broadway, I believe, was called Trouble in Mind, which I have heard of, but I have not seen. But this play, Wine in the Wilderness, was a knockout. It was 90 minutes, maybe, no intermission. I can't believe it hasn't been made into a film. It was written in the 60s. It's set in Harlem in the 60s. This artist is working on a triptych in his Harlem studio while these riots are happening outside. But inside, he is an artist. And he's done one picture of a young African-American girl that sort of depicts innocence. And then there's a second picture of a sort of African queen, regal, beautiful, beautifully adorned, the sort of height of perfection of womanhood. And then he's got the third canvas that he's working on, and he's trying to find somebody who's sort of broken down, an African-American woman who's sort of broken down. I forget the words they kept using to describe his vision for this. Someone who has been beaten down by life, has given up the fight. At one point, I think this idea is referred to as a nothing kind of a person. And what happens is 2 of his friends know about his idea for this third canvas, and they meet a woman in a bar during the riots, and they invite her to come to this artist's apartment with the idea that she could pose for him, but they don't tell her that his vision is to find somebody who's been beaten down by life, who is the opposite of the regal queen in the second picture. And so we meet this woman coming into the apartment. Her name is Tommy, which is short for tomorrow. And we know that she's being used and that she's meant to represent something. It reminded me a bit of that River Phoenix movie Dogfight, where all of the soldiers were competing to see who could bring the least attractive woman to a dance or whatever. It had that feeling of, oh, this woman's being set up. But what happens and unfolds during the course of the play is you realize that Tommy is the most special person on that stage. She's been through some things, but she's kind and wise and funny. The show is really funny. And, the painter starts to see a different side of her. But there's so many ideas in this play. At one point, the men go out to get food, and the women get to talk about what it's like to be a woman, and different sides of their characters come out when the men are not there. And there's an ending that leaves you feeling kind of hopeful after everything that's happened. and the performances are staggeringly good. Like, I think this is one of the best things I've seen on stage in so long. And I love seeing things on stage, and I see a lot of good things on stage. It was so special. The audience was so into it, and I might even go again. I loved it that much. But if you get a chance to learn about Alice Childress, the writer, or can go see this show in LA, I highly recommend it. I got a lot of texts today and emails and things like that from friends for my birthday, and my heart was just so full when I got home at the end of the night. I got an email from a listener and somebody that's followed my work for a while, and he talked about just different times in his life and things that he remembers, and still being here. We're talking about Madonna was a touchstone for both of us. And, she talked about how he mentioned that how she in her concert said, if you're still here, you're luckier than most. And I just have such a full heart tonight. And, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world and in my life. And yet I feel very loved and blessed and proud. I was proud that I invited my friends to this show and they all loved it so much in this unique place. And like, that made me feel good that I had shared something cool with people and that they had come to be a part of this night. And, so the buffet style birthday bonanza, the final act was fantastic. It's so moving. I'm surprised that you don't see people in acting classes doing scenes and monologues from this show. Like, it was so special. The writing was sharp and funny. It was accessible, but it was full of ideas about race and class and sex and America and loneliness and forgiveness and compassion and judging a book by its cover and art and why art matters, and at the end of the play, after the curtain call, the lead actor came out and he talked about the theme of the season. And I can't remember, there was a catchphrase to the theme of the season at the Will Geer Theatricum Botanicum, but it was basically about, defiance and standing up for the authoritarian tendencies that are happening now in America, and the racism and the sexism and the homophobia and all of the division and all the hate, and standing as a bulwark against that, and with these strong pieces that are inclusive and compassionate and smart and sort of defiant. Like, there's an image in the program of fists being raised in the air. And so that was really a beautiful coda to the piece that we had all just seen. And it underscores what I talk about all the time on the podcast, is like art and creativity and these things that we are able to see and experience and take part in. Sometimes they illuminate the lives we're living, the world we're living in. They help us make sense of it. They help us keep going. And so I was just so grateful for that. So, the birthday bonanza was a big hit, and it ended on a really wonderful note.
And now it's time for the observation deck.
So my most recent guest on Dennis Anyone is the podcaster Rob Loveless. His podcast is called A Jaded Gay, but he's anything but jaded. Don't let the title fool you. He does some real thoughtful stuff about gay history and all kinds of different issues related to LGBTQ people, as well as pop culture stuff. It's fun. So Rob picked a question from the observation deck. Let's listen. You picked one question from the observation deck. Have you ever been starstruck?
I have, and everybody's going to be laughing about it. Yeah. So when I was like, I go through periods where I'll just like randomly discover music. And I don't mean like, oh, I discovered this new indie artist. I mean like discovered music from yesteryear that like was popular and I'm finding it years later. So when I was a kid, of course, I remember Michelle Branch, Can You Tell Me That You're Happy Now? If I Just Breathe, all those songs around that time.
Right.
But when I was in college, I kind of did a deeper dive into her discography of like her first album, The Spirit Room, which I just knew a couple songs of. So 2017, she released an album called Hopeless Romantic, which everyone slept on, which is a shame because it's really good. But she also announced like a mini tour. So I got meet and greet tickets to see her in Cleveland, Ohio. And you would have thought that I was like meeting like Gaga, Kylie, Beyonce, Britney, every pop diva rolled into one. I was so self-conscious, and they gave us papers to have signed. And like, I didn't want to like be like, fangirling or like annoying or anything. So I hand her the thing. I'm like, oh, can you sign this for me? She goes, yeah, what's your name? I'm like, Rob. And she's like, how do you spell that? And she's like, well, I guess there's only one way to spell Rob, but me trying to be like funny or whatever. I'm like, well, yeah, unless you spelled like broccoli Rob, like R-A-U-B-E, but no, it's just Rob, R-O-B. And then like we took a picture and you could just see I'm smiling, but it was such like an awkward smile because I was so stressed and starstruck. I mean, she was lovely though, and she put on a great show, but I think it's funny because it's like Michelle Branch in 2017, who deserves all the flowers, but was kind of a smaller act, unfortunately, at that time. But you, like I said, you would have thought I was meaning like every pop royalty at once.
I love it. Michelle Branch, what was her big hit? 1,000 Miles? No,
that's Vanessa Carlton.
That's Vanessa
she
Carlton.
Does get confused.
Michelle Branch, did she do the song with Santana? And
she did.
Yes.
Yeah. She did The Game of Love. She did.
Yeah.
What was her first one? I'm totally blanking right now, too.
That's all right.
All You Wanted, Everywhere, Goodbye to You.
Everywhere. Okay. I'm going to a Lilith Fair thing tonight. Oh,
nice.
Yeah, so I'm going to be basking with the Liliths.
And now it's time for You Gotta Get On This, Dennis's Pop Culture Picks of the Week.
Okay, for my pop culture picks, I mentioned the movies that I saw as part of my birthday. So I'm going to also mention another movie that I saw on Wednesday. It's called Boorman and the Devil, and it's a documentary, and it's made by my friend Dave Kittredge, produced by my friend Jim Fall, who's been on the podcast before. And it's about the director John Boorman, specifically the time when he chose to make the movie Exorcist II, The Heretic, which was not a success. I mean, it might have done okay financially, but it was not thought of as a good sequel. It was very different from The Exorcist. People that love The Exorcist were like, what is this movie? It's kind of like poetic and kind of trancy and bizarre in some ways. Linda Blair is in it, but Ellen Burstyn, I think, was in the movie Exorcist. She didn't come back. So they had the actress that played Nurse Ratched, Louise Fletcher, I think, as Reagan's therapist. And Richard Burton played this priest that was in there. And Richard Burton is so wild. But anyway, David's documentary explains how this movie happened, what it meant to John Boorman in his career, because he had made other movies like Hope and Glory and Excalibur. I think those came later, but he'd been a really well-respected director. And this was kind of a blight on his career, and I think it took him a while to get his mojo back. And David's movie is so moving and compassionate, because going in, I was like, I want to support my friend, but I've never seen this movie. I don't know that much about, I haven't seen Exorcist 2. I don't know. So I'm just going to go. And I was so engrossed in the movie. It's funny. It's entertaining. It moves right along. He gives you lots of context about the times and how a movie like this could happen, how Warner Brothers could spend all this money on this thing and nobody's really reading the script or anything like that, how all of that unfolded. How did they end up with Richard Burton, and how drunk was he most of the time? All of those little behind-the-scenes stories. But what was really moving about it was he had a long interview with John Boorman, which apparently Dave says he did in one long day. And John Boorman is older, near the end of his career, and he's made all of these movies, audacious movies. I don't know all of his filmography, but certainly Excalibur was a hit for him. And he had things before Exorcist that were well regarded, and he was well thought of as like sort of an auteur. And this movie comes out, and it kind of is a disaster. And it was very moving to see a filmmaker as well as some of the other people around it. The actors, Linda Blair is interviewed, and so is Louise Fletcher. Talk about what it was like to be in a flop like that, or to a movie that was so sort of reviled or, talked about, or it was such a disappointment to certain fans. And it was very moving to see them reckon with this, especially John Boorman, and it was like, what's it like to be an artist? What's it like to put yourself out there? What's it like to do something that people don't understand, that people don't appreciate? I just found it very, very moving, especially given the things that I like to talk about on Dennis Anyone, the creativity and art are what make life bearable, consuming it and creating it, but it's a challenge to do it. And it can be heartbreaking sometimes. And is it all worth it? But in the end, I think Boorman landed on, yeah, I made movies. That's who I am. This is what I did. And this one didn't go so well. And I learned a lot from it, but I wouldn't change anything. Like, this is who I am, and this is what I've committed my art to. And David, I can't wait for the movie to get released because I want to have David on the podcast. He handled his interviews and his subject with such compassion and generosity of like, it's not like, let's talk about that horrible flop. It's the worst. How did that happen? Like, it's not that. It's like, you know, it's like, I know you were setting out to do something and it wasn't received that way. And how does that feel? It was done with such compassion. It had a lot of humor in it for sure, but it was more of, it was about more than what it was about. That's what I ended up saying to him afterwards. And I was so proud of him because I know he's been working on it forever. And so keep an eye out for that. I'll let you know when it's coming out. A couple of TV shows are back that I'm into. The Morning Show, I like watching it. Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, it's kind of soapy, but it's very of the moment. Like, they're always dealing with things that are really in the zeitgeist. Now it's AI and different things like that. And what it's like now that women are running the show at the studio. Is it more functional? Is it less cruel? I don't know. That's what we're exploring. And for some reason, there's something about Reese's character, Bradley, that moves me. Jen's character, I call her Jen because she's all of our Jen. Rachel Levy, she's kind of, I don't know, kind of compromised in some fucked up ways or whatever, but fun to watch and interesting. But there's something moving about Bradley because I think she's someone that's tried to make a difference. And, you know, especially in her investigative reporting stuff, there's something about her. I feel like there's still a kernel of like, that isn't cynical, that believes in the mission of journalism and telling stories. And there's something about that moves me and I'm into. So I'm into The Morning Show. And English Teacher is back with Brian Jordan Alvarez, the creator of it. Also done the pod, the first episode, he's also the theater, director in the school, and the kids wanted to do Angels in America, but when they start rehearsing, they're like, this is too boring and we don't relate to it at all. And so they were like, they ended up doing COVID in America, and it's everything you would imagine. It has that Waiting for Guffman-esque kind of theater treatment. They're like Fauci and doing dances like they're viruses. And anyway, it's COVID in America. So that show makes me laugh, and I'm happy that it is back. So those are my pop culture picks of the week.
And now it's time for Come On Get Happy, musings on the science of happiness.
Okay, so for this week's happiness chunk, I want to share some of the latest developments with Search Party, the party game I'm putting out in the world, or attempting to. But first, I want to talk about somebody that I didn't really realize was a voice in this space, but that person is Andy Warhol. And when I do my morning meditations, there's often quotes that go with the guided meditations that'll come up on the screen. And sometimes they really speak to me and I save them, and maybe they end up on a dream board, sure, whatever. But there's two of them in recent months, in recent weeks actually, that were Andy Warhol quotes that I'm going to share with you. And also Andy Warhol was in the museum. He was pictured, and then there were also some of his artworks. There was a short video called Blowjob, where it's just the face of a guy and he's supposed to possibly be getting a blowjob. We don't know if he was or wasn't, but it was like a black and white video projected on a wall. And it was funny because there are two actual works of art in this exhibit, Queer Lens, called Blowjob. And so, I mean, I like that they're going edgy. And, you know, as titles go, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So Andy Warhol's Blowjob. And did I shoot a little video of the video? You bet I did. But it's just a guy's face. But anyway, I don't know a ton about Andy Warhol. I had a friend that used to be obsessed with him and read the diaries and all that stuff. But there are two things that, quotes of his that I saw recently that I was like, I need to know more about Andy Warhol and his philosophy, how he moved through the world, because these quotes really speak to me. One of them is this: you have to be willing to get happy about nothing. I kind of like that. Like, you could just decide, I'm just going to, and that was one of my strategies when I was really starting to embark on this. What if I just decide to be happy anyway, regardless of what's going on? That's the project. What are the tools? How do you do it? You have to be willing to get happy about about nothing. Andy Warhol. And here's the other clip, the other quote I like. Sometimes people let the same problem make them miserable for years when they could just say, so what? I like that. I like so what, because my thing is I get to oh well a lot. I get to oh well a lot faster. When things don't go my way, I'm like, oh well. There used to be a big fight and, why? And then now I'm like, oh, well, not always, but more than I used to. I get to it quicker. And I think his thing is, so what? Like, what if your thing is like you struggle with not liking the way you look or whatever, or not feeling like you're smart enough or whatever? Like there's this thing that you're constantly on yourself about. I'm too this, or I'm not fat enough, or I don't, whatever it is. What if you just said, so what? And let it go? You don't need to make yourself miserable for years. I just like that observation. And I wonder what he observed in the people around him that inspired him to say that, and how it incorporated into his own life, into his work, into how he sort of moved through that crazy world that he was in, and the people that brought him around. I'm intrigued now. I want to know more about him as a man, because I don't know that much, actually. Just some of the works, and that he was, had a kind of family of people around him. So I love that. You have to be willing to get happy about nothing. And then in the last part of this podcast, I want to share a little development on where we are with the party game Search Party, which I came up with the idea at the beginning of the year. I started play testing it. I thought there's something here. I took it to my friend Jeb Havens, who co-created You Don't Know My Life with me, and we fleshed out the rules and kind of fine-tuned it a bit. And I decided I want to try to get this out by Christmas again, like we did with You Don't Know My Life. And Jeb was on board with helping me. And so we started the process. But what we found, I thought going in, this will be easier. It's a cheaper product. It's easier to produce. It's just cards. They're fun cards, but there's no pencils or pens or paper or any of those other components that we had. The price point is lower. We have a big mailing list of people that have done virtual games. People like You Don't Know My Life, and there's goodwill around that. And so this will be easier, right? And we don't need as much money to print them because it's not as a complicated game anyway. And it wasn't easier. The things that I did before that would get orders and pre-orders and stuff weren't working. I remember the first time I went on Derek and Romaine with You Don't Know My Life in 2018, the orders would come in like a telethon, boom, oh my gosh, while I was still on the air with them, you would see them. And this time, no, just a little bit, but not that much. And I don't blame myself. I don't blame the game. I think people are in a different place. There's so much uncertainty. I was talking to a friend of mine who his husband is a chef and does tutorials in their condo, in their house sometimes. And he used to he had a tip jar that at the end, then he would get tips, and then he would set that money aside and buy something fun for the house or whatever. And in the last few years, he would get, end up with a nice little chunk at the end of the year from that money. This year, zero. People aren't doing it. So even if they're doing certain things, they're watching their money. It's a different thing. So we realized recently that we're quite a long ways from where we need to be to cover the printing of this game. And I don't mind putting out a little, and we'll sell them at flea markets or whatever. I want this thing to exist because I believe in it. I think it's fun. It's not an exorbitant expense to get made, but at this time, it's proving trickier than we thought it would be. And, but I want it to exist because nothing can happen if it doesn't exist. If it's in the world, maybe, Urban Outfitters will be like, this is fun, let's do it, or whatever. But it needs to exist, right? And so I'm looking at these numbers and thinking, am I going to pull the plug? So tying it into the happiness, it comes up to, a failure. Is it a bad idea? You start feeling bad about yourself, or you should push harder, or what's going on? You feel a little bewildered because of all these things you thought, all of these things you thought would help you didn't really. They worked last time and they didn't work this time. And you start to think, what am I missing? What was I doing? Was I stupid to even try to do this during this crazy time? And so I had all of these kind of bummed out feelings around it. And then yesterday when people came to my game meetup at the brewery, we were catching up and having food and all this stuff. And there at the end, I said, listen, guys, I want to get your feedback on something. This is where I am with this. I feel like I need to do a push because it's still doable. We can do this, but I need to change my pitch a little. And what do you think? And they bounced around ideas. And it was kind of, just one thing about this thinking about happiness and mindfulness and stuff is there's more of an awareness that I have of how I'm feeling in any given moment. Like I'm able to kind of be outside of it and going, oh, this is making you feel nervous. Oh, this is making you feel anxious. Oh, this is making you feel ashamed or like you did something wrong or like, and like, oh, what's going on? What is this stew of stuff? And I was fine, even though, hearing my friends' ideas, I really appreciated them helping. But there were times where I felt like this defensive thing. Well, we already tried that. Like they're just trying to help. And I never said that, but I would feel it or I'd think it. And it was just like this emotional stew of like, this isn't going the way we had hoped. Do we cut bait? What should we do? What should I do about it? And so I got feedback from them and I decided I was going to do another. I was going to leverage my birthday to do a pitch and to figure out to try to goose the urgency to people that would want to support me if they knew that I was, that it was important, but not like, if people can't swing it financially, I totally get it. I'm there. I don't know if I could, if somebody else sent me that, I get it. So I guess what I want to say is that like, even as all of this was unfolding and I was like trying to decide what to do, there was a part of me that was like, this is an opportunity to learn. This is an opportunity to grow. I have to put on my big boy pants. Like there was a part of me that was like seeing this not as bad fortune or a bad thing, but a challenge and an opportunity. I really did kind of go, okay, what is the move? And I don't love social media. I never wanted to be one of those people that turn on the camera and look at it and be like, hey guys, like that's never been my dream. But I had to be that guy. And I wrote out this thing and then I went to CapChat. It's the editing software for TikTok that's good at TikTok. And they have a lot of tools there to make it easier or whatever, but I'd never used it before. So I was trying to figure that out. And I edited this 2-minute thing and I'm really proud of it. And I just started I put it on my platforms this morning, but then my friend Brett, who's very good at social media, he's like, well, you need to do it to your stories and then send the link to all your friends and have them share it only to stories, but do it every day. Like there's so much to know about all of this stuff. But the point is I saw it. It was a lot of discomfort around it, a lot of like feeling like a loser, like a failure, like shame, like a little like those colors, but also like, okay, this is not over. We can still do this. I still believe in it. I have to come at it with a little more urgency and I got to do things that are uncomfortable for me. And so I'm going to play you the clip that I did of the video and, there's some funny imagery in it that you won't see. But you can see it if you go to my Instagram or my TikTok. Dennis C. Hensley is my Instagram. And if you're listening and you would like to buy a game, I would love that. YouDon'tKnowMyLife.com/search party. That's where you get the information and, you pre-order the game and, it would mean a lot. And if you can't swing it, I totally get it. But I think, when I was looking at the year and I'm like, do we want to try to do this? And I put it on my dream board and I was like, I want to bring it out. There was a part of me that's like, it's the wrong time. People aren't into this stuff. It's too too tough. But I pushed through anyway and we'll see if we make it. But what was a really kind of yucky feeling ended up being like an opportunity and something an occasion that I feel like I rose to. We'll see how it goes. But regardless, I feel like I stepped up. And that's a good feeling. So I'm going to play you the video when I can find it. I'm scrolling through my phone.
Hey, Dennis Hensley here. It's my birthday week, and I have a birthday wish, and you can help make it come true. See, at the beginning of the year, I came up with this idea for a new party game. It's called Search Party, and the premise is simple. Players use their phone to try to find an image to illustrate a certain theme, like strange bedfellows or tight squeeze. So I took the idea to my game designer friend Jeb Havens. We fleshed out the rules, and then we started testing it on people, and people were digging it. And I thought, I want to have this game out by Christmas. But then I thought, is this the right time to try to do something like this? I mean, everything in the world is so uncertain. People are stressed out. Nobody has any money. But then I thought, no, why should I put my creative dreams on hold just because the world might be ending? And also, maybe now is the time to do something like this, to bring something into the world that brings people together, gives them some laughs. Remember, laughs? They're a thing. So we decided to go for it. We got the same manufacturer that did You Don't Know My Life to whip up this prototype, and we started taking pre-orders, but we've had a few hiccups, like some tariff stuff, but it's all okay. And the point is, like John Stamos at 62, this is still doable. So here's where we're at. I need 150 people to order this game by November 15th. That's like 3 a day. So go to youdon'tknowmylife.com/search party to order your copy. It's $25. That includes shipping. And if you order more than one, there are price breaks. Can you say stocking stuffer? Of course you can. It's not that hard to say, but you get the point. This is totally stuffable. So if you like party games, if you like laughing with your friends and family, if you like me and the stuff I try to put out into the world, it would mean a lot if you ordered a game. And if you can't swing it right now, I totally get it. Just last week, I got in trouble at the Costco food court for trying to reuse a fountain drink cup from a few days earlier. They busted me just so I could save 80 cents. Not a proud moment. These are crazy times, I get it. But somebody really smart once said that happiness is having something to look forward to. So I look forward to sharing Search Party with all of you in a couple of months when we're all still totally gonna be here. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
So that's the message, and I'm going to tell you a couple of the. Oh wait, it's starting to play again. I get it. Please, you're never going to escape that fucking thing. So here's a couple of little insights. I found GIFs that I could use to spice up the visuals, and so at the end, when we're all totally going to be here, I found a GIF of Stephen Colbert crossing his fingers like "I hope," which is so of the moment, and he's been canceled already, so it's just full of meanings. My favorite line in it is. Like John Stamos at 62, this is still doable. Come on. That's good. That's solid. If nothing else, if I've offered nothing else this year to humanity, that's a solid joke. All right. So the point is it was an uncomfortable situation, and I tried to look at it as something not that. And I feel good about what I put out there, and we'll see how it goes. I know some of the orders have already been coming in. It can be uncomfortable to try to ask for things like that. But I did it. And I feel like I hit a good note, and I feel good about that. So it's my birthday. I'm going to go get ready to go to Chili's and then go see this play. And then I have to, after this week of all this stuff, and then I have to look at my life tomorrow morning and be like, okay, what am I doing? What's happening? Do I have a job? Like, what am I doing? But right now, we celebrate. So thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. And now, say goodbye, AI James Dean.
Night, AI James